there any way to explain why Donald Trump is not 5 to 10 points ahead other than his own self-inflicted wounds?
No. Short answer, he should be up by 7 or 8 on the economy and the border. Fewer people pay attention to what's really happening overseas, but that is also getting to be very serious. President Biden is checked out, so, people that expect him to be proactive in any area are deluding themselves. But both candidates are what they call tone deaf. So Kamala Harris has heard a million times, you have to, that answering every question with "you were raised in a middle-class home above some child care center" is not an answer. And it's making you look foolish. And it does. And only the zealots or the hardcore Trump haters think that's a good thing. Donald Trump has been told many, many, many times that personal attacks detract from whatever point he's trying to make. So there was a paper put out by ICE, all right, the Homeland Security, and it said there's more than 400,000 criminal migrants right now in this country, unattended. Government doesn't know where they are, what they're doing. 400,000. You don't need to say that migrants will come into your kitchen and slit your throat, because that's not really fair to the migrants who won't do that, right? There are a percentage who will do that, but be specific about what you're saying. Donald Trump doesn't want to do that because it takes too much time to do it. He wants to make the broad point. And this is his thinking. I won in 2016 doing exactly what I'm doing now. And that's true. But it's a different time. And the electorate is much angrier now than it was 8 years ago. Much angrier. So the more specific you can be about how you're going to solve the problems that are making voters angry, the more chance you have to win the election.
You are talking about policy in terms of specifics, and neither candidate is doing that, right? Donald Trump is talking about how migrants are going to slit your throats and I'm going to have mass deportation of millions, which he's not going to do. Kamala Harris is, I grew up in a middle-class household. I took a little bit farther and went a little bit farther than your column did. You said you don't know what holistic means. I think we all know exactly what it means, which is a very progressive view. It's a very progressive view of the economy and of everything else. It's an excuse for a government takeover to deal with the root causes of all these problems that she's going to deal with. Holistically, what I think is most interesting, though, is that her biggest supporters are saying, don't worry about the policies, which is almost the same thing that Donald Trump's supporters, a sort of a mirror image of her, are saying. Here's General Stan McChrystal on ABC's This Week.
But let's be sure, we don't elect a president based on policies. We shouldn't. We should elect them for the character, because we don't know what's going to come up.
What do you make of that?
It's dopey. I don't know what happened to General McChrystal. He did a fine job in Afghanistan. He must know that the way Biden handled that was an absolute disaster. It's come back to hurt the United States 100 times over. And McChrystal saying, don't worry about policy. We want people of character. No, that's not right. You want people who understand the problem and have solutions to it. You want to put that under the policy category? Okay. But I don't know about Kamala Harris's character. How would I know? I don't know her. And you say everybody knows what holistic means. I don't know what that means. I looked it up and read the definition. It's like, what are you talking about? If I were to say, if Kamala Harris was sitting where you are, Leland, number one, the ratings would probably be higher. But if I asked her to explain what holistic meant, I don't believe she could.
But is that...
She'd probably go back to the middle class
Is that by
apartment.
design, though? Is that by design? Isn't that sort of the point?
Here's what I believe it is, but I don't have eyewitness proof of it. She is told to say certain things, just like Biden. It's the same crew that ran Biden or is running him that's running her.
It's more the
They
Obama
tell
people, though,
them
who are
this
running
is how
her.
to frame it. There's some Obama people in, but they're simpatico now. There's no, and they're told, both Biden and Harris are told how to position things, how to deflect. Whereas on the other side, no one, and I mean this literally, can tell Trump anything. There isn't a human being in his campaign who can tell him anything. They can suggest, they can throw it out there,
No, he makes
but
his own
he
choices.
is absolutely self-contained. And if he believes that demonizing migrants, which obviously he does, is going to get him more votes than being a policy-driven guy, that's what he's going to do. And he believes that at this point in history.
Yeah. Look, and victory washes all sins, right? So 36 days from now, we know which one of these two strategies worked. It's pretty simple. We're showing video, interestingly enough. Kamala Harris at FEMA today. She got off the campaign trail. Donald Trump in Georgia, where he was scheduled to go anyway, but talked about the hurricane. There is now this narrative of comparing the Biden-Harris response to the hurricane now to George W. Bush in Katrina. Remember, there was the famous picture of W flying over, over New Orleans, and then Kamala Harris put the picture out of her with her headphones in on Air Force Two. You think that's fair, number one? And number two, and this may be, I think, the more important question, how does this week, where there's sort of a tryout for comforter-in-chief, that who's going to hold America's hand during these bad moments, who does that play more to, Trump or Harris?
It doesn't play to either of them. It's a transitory issue. In 3 weeks, people aren't going to remember, except for the people who are affected directly by it. They'll remember. But the government always does this. FEMA comes in. They provide money to rebuild. The Katrina thing hurt Bush because it went on and on and on and on and on. And the pictures were so horrible of the people trying to get off the rooftops. And then there was a racial aspect to it, that a lot of the flooding took place in the 9th District Ward of New Orleans, which is all black. And W didn't know how to engage until a week later, 10 days later. And that really hurt him. This is not, there's only so much that politicians can do. The system works the same way in every natural disaster. So Trump and Harris both are trying to convince Americans that they care about you if you get into trouble. And they both probably do to some extent. I mean, you know, but this election is important, not because of Trump or Harris. I'm the only one saying this. It's what they represent.
Okay.
If Kamala Harris is elected, listen to me. If Kamala Harris is elected, you are putting the most radical left progressive by far into the White House. If Trump is elected, he's going to do pretty much the same thing he did the first time around. So when you're weighing it, that's how you have to look at it. They're both predictable politicians.
You know, I will tell you when I think you're wrong, but I think it's a pretty fair assessment. Holistically, a holistic assessment.
Yeah, I haven't heard you do that in a month now, so I'm probably on a good streak here, you know?
All right, Bill, we'll see you tomorrow night for the debate, all right? Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.